So it's the weekend and YieldMax paid out their distributions for Group A and the weekly payers. Now, I do not currently have anything in Group A, but I do have a couple in the weeklies. So I'm going to go in, update my spreadsheet, and see what my current average price is for ULTY and YMAX. We'll also update a couple other ones that I do have that I did get paid a distribution on this week. And I've also created a spreadsheet for QDTE, and I want to see where my average is on that one, as I do not know what my adjusted price average is for that one. And we'll find out together. Hello my friends, this is Legend. So I wanted to update my spreadsheet on the YieldMax weekly pairs that I have, which is ULTY and YMAX. Then I have one in Defiance and Roundhill that will update, along with one that I've had for a while, but I have not created a spreadsheet for. So we'll do that one at the end of this video, and we'll see where my average is, because I do not know, as I have not created a spreadsheet until now. So let's just go ahead and jump right over into the spreadsheets, and let's get going and find out what my averages are. Okay, so here we are, and if you do not already have a copy of this, you can see in the description or in the pinned comments, there will be a link to buy me a coffee if you would like to have access so that you can track your positions of these high yield ETFs, and then just make separate tabs for each stock or ETF that you do have. So we'll start right off here with ULTY, and you can see that the current price as of this video is $5.47. I currently have 150 shares. My purchase price is $5.66, but as you know, that's not my real price per share, because I am earning distributions, and for the distributions that I am capturing, I am able to adjust that price per share, and this value here shows what that actually would be. And in my case, my real price per share, or my adjusted average price per share, is $5.22. So it is a little below my purchase price per share over here. This number is just taking the average of the actual purchases that I've made. Whereas this price per share here actually takes that same number, but then takes my distributions into account, which helps to offset that price per share, right? And I call that my real price per share. So for ULTY, I have a real price per share of $5.22. Now, we did earn a distribution, so let's enter that in. And for this one here, I like to enter in the X date. And the reason being is just simply because in order for those shares to be eligible, you have to have purchased those shares before the X date. So that just helps whenever you're looking at your entries over here to know which one actually is eligible for that distribution. So it just makes your life a little bit easier by using the X date instead of the pay date for this field right here. So we know on ULTY, the X date for ULTY was 10/2. And how much did they pay out? Well, it paid out 0.913. So just a little over 9 cents. Now, how many shares? Well, it would be all the shares before 10/2. Well, I have not purchased any since 9/5, so I can count all shares. And that total share count is 150 shares. So I enter 150, and we'll see what does my real price per share change to. So it goes from 5.22 down to 5.13. Oh yes, coming on down, right? With that current price of 5.47 and my adjusted price per share of 5.13, that just means that if I was to sell my shares at the current price of $5.47, I will clear $50.69. Now, of course, that is not much money, right? But in the same sense, I'm also not looking to sell, right? So that is the amount that I would actually clear. That is not on top of the distributions that you've earned. That is the total amount you would actually make. not accounting for any taxes. So the good thing here is you can see that my real price per share is under the current price of ULTY, which means I am in profit if I was to sell. And eventually, once this gets down to zero, then all those distributions from that point on would be free and clear, and I can use them to buy more shares if I want, no matter what the price is of ULTY, and it still keep from me entering any more of my personal capital. And I'll be using the house money in the way of the distributions to buy more shares. So as long as I would not exceed the distribution that I will earn once I have got my shares paid off, I will never have any of my personal capital invested. It will all be 100% YieldMax ULTY money. But that's just how I'm playing these. It's not the popular way, but it is how I play it, as I'm personally looking to try to get all of my capital back as soon as possible, because you don't know what tomorrow brings. So with a real price per share of $5.13, I'm pretty happy with ULTY. Now let's move on to YMAX. And here we are on YMAX. And you can see YMAX with the current price of $12.81. My purchase price per share is $18.66. And if that's the only price I saw, I would not be too happy with my position in YMAX, simply because the current price being $12.81, it looks like I am down quite a bit, but I am earning distributions. So, and I am capturing those distributions, right? I do reinvest, but I reinvest surgically, right? As I'm sure you know in my previous videos where I've stated, I only like to purchase shares when the current price here is under my adjusted price per share or my real price per share. Therefore, by doing that, it helps to only bring this down even further. But if it is above it and I buy, it will increase my real price per share, therefore extending out that time to get paid back. But in this case, with my current real price per share of $9.61, so far I'm in the good. But we did earn a distribution, so let's enter that. And we'll just enter it right into the next slot, and that X date is on 10/2. The amount, definitely better than last week. Last week was 8 cents. Pretty low, right? Very low. This week, it was 0.1399. Definitely not the highest, but I'll take it. It's a whole lot better than the 8 cents. How many shares? Well, I have not purchased any more shares. As you can see right here, I have not purchased since 9/4 of 2025, so I can count for all 758 shares. So we'll enter in 758, and we'll see my adjusted price per share was $9.61. What does that change it to? Well, my new real price per share is $9.47. You see what I'm saying? I am lowering my real price per share by doing this method, right? So therefore, at that $9.47 for my real price per share, if I were to sell my shares at the current price of $12.81 of all 758 shares, how much money would I actually make? Well, I'll actually clear $2,534.72. So not a loss, but a gain, right? And that is why it is very important to calculate and know what your real price per share is. So definitely, if you're not using my sheet, then use a sheet that you create so that you can track that real price per share to help you understand where you really are in a position. Because it is very important to know that. And it also will help you to know when is the right time to purchase more shares. Because if you're looking at this one for an example and you see your purchase price of $18.66, well, the current price of YMAX being at $12.81, your first thought is it's below my average of $18.66, so I'm going to purchase. And you can, right? It is your choice. And of course, it will lower your purchase price per share here from 1866 down to something else, right? It will lower it because you are purchasing below that price. But, okay, big but here, it will raise your real price per share because it is at $9.47, which is under the current price per share. Therefore, when you purchase at 12 and your average or your real price per share average is at 9, it's going to go up, right? Now, of course, by buying more shares, you do increase your potential, and I do air quotes on potential because that's not guaranteed. And that is to increase your potential distributions earned right here. It could increase how much you're actually earning per payout, because you would have more eligible shares for that distribution. And the reason I say potential is just simply because you don't know what that distribution amount is going to be. So for me, I am looking to get mine paid off so that I no longer have any of my personal capital invested, right? YieldMax will have paid me back all of my personal capital, and then I can look to start increasing my share count using the house money. And what I mean by house money is the YieldMax money through the way of distributions. So I would have zero risk in this play once I get this paid off, and then I can use those distributions I earn and increase my share count at that point, and then increase my potential amount earned versus keeping the full risk whenever you're using DRIP. But now don't get me wrong, everybody has their own way of doing things, and this is not financial advice. You decide on what's right for you. I'm just showing you what I'm doing. So another one that I have here that I did earn that distribution on is IWMY. And this is a Defiance fund. And this is one that actually went through a reverse split. And right here you can see I have that labeled right there as reverse split. They gave me 1 share for every 3 shares I had. And as you can see, before I had 1,500 shares. So after that, that 1,500 shares dropped to 500 shares. Ouch, right? Now, a lot of people will say, well, you still have the same value. And you do, right? Because the shares get cut by 3, but the price increases by 3x. So in the end, it is a wash, but the problem is if that price decreases from there, now you're looking at that price for those 500 shares decreasing. And of course, as that price decreases, so does normally the distribution. So eventually now you have 500 shares times a small dollar amount of distribution versus the 1,500 of the small dollar amount, right? You can see where you can start actually losing money on a reverse split. But that happened quite a while ago, right? That happened back in August of 24, and that was definitely before I was tracking my real price per share, right? But as you can see, at a current price of $23.11 and my purchase price of $42.31. And that share price, remember, that increased, right? Because that 1,500 shares went to 500 shares. So therefore, my purchase price, which was around this area, around $14, also 3x'd, right? Which took it to an average price of $42.31. So you can see why I don't want MSTY to keep going down. I want it to level off because I don't like when these ETFs get too low in price. They want to do a reverse split at that time. Now, granted, we haven't had a reverse split in a long time in any of these ETFs, at least since October of 2024, at least, right? But it's always something you have to understand that could happen. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying it could happen on any of these high yield ETFs. So what is my real price per share? Well, that is $18.63. Very nice, right? I am actually below the current price of IWMY. And that's even after reverse split. Now, I've worked hard at it, right? But it is under that current price of IWMY. Now, I did earn a distribution this past week, so let's enter that into this spreadsheet and see what that changes. The X date was 10/2. The amount was 0.2284. And how many shares? As you can see, I have not purchased since 8/1 of 2025. And this is now 10/2 of 2025. So I can count all 551 shares. So that real price per share from 1863, what does it become now? 1840. Little by little, I am whittling it down. So on this pace, it's going to take me a little over a year to get this one paid off at the rate that it's going. But I am still earning distributions, and eventually, as long as nothing happens, I will get it paid off, and then that will be weekly money, free and clear, coming into my pocket. And at that point is when I actually start making money. Because currently, the only way that I would make money in any of these ETFs that I've shown so far is if I were to sell it, right? So far, I am showing a positive amount that if I were to sell it, I would actually make a certain dollar value, right? But that's selling it. But if I'm not selling it, then all I have is my distributions, right? And that amount of distributions I have in this case is $13,000. But I've paid out $23,000. So I have not earned back all of this. And that is the reason why you see this over here. Percent earned is 56%. Because that's how much of my capital I have actually got returned back to me. And yes, I am just getting my capital returned back to me. But in the hopes that once all of it is returned back to me, I then start getting paid money on shares that has been paid for by YieldMax. And that is the key, in my opinion, to these high yield ETFs. So at 1840 for my real price per share, not too bad at a current price of 23.11. But again, if all I was looking at is that purchase price per share, I think I would be looking to try to sell it because I don't really understand where I'm actually at in the position. But the real price per share, it shows me where I'm at and how much I actually stand to lose. As you can see, I have a calculated adjusted capital invested, and that is my full risk. Currently is $10,139. So you can see I don't have a full $23,000 at risk. I only have $10,000 at risk because I have earned back $13,000 in distributions. So I hope some of this is starting to make a little bit of sense of why I'm doing what I'm doing. Now let's move over to the next one, and that's JEPQ. And on JEPQ, I've had it for a while as well. And most of these I've had for a while, right? And just like a lot of you, I got into it not really understanding fully how it worked, thinking that it was a lot like a regular ETF or stock. You buy it, it's going up or going sideways, whatever, and you earn those distributions and life is grand, right? And then you start watching the price drop and it doesn't seem to want to recover, then you start getting worried. And honestly, that is what happened with me on JEPQ. As you can see right here, I originally had 1,000 shares of JEPQ. How many do I have now? 147. Why is that? Well, because right here, you see, I got scared, right? I got scared and I sold 900 shares. That left me with 100 shares, right? I sold those 900 shares at a slight loss, right? Because I hadn't earned back enough distributions to account for the price difference that I was selling at versus my purchase price per share up here, okay? Now, there is nothing wrong with selling because if you don't fully understand, you probably shouldn't be in it, right? And that's what happened to me here. Not fully understanding how it works, I got scared and I jumped out, leaving just 100 shares as I felt like my original amount here of close to $55,000 that I had originally invested. I felt like I had a little too much in it for the risk, right? And that's why I sold 900 shares of it. But again, like I said, not fully understanding how it works, I jumped out and I took a slight loss. Not a big loss, but I did take a little bit of a loss. So let's just go ahead and let's enter in that distribution that I got paid. And this one here went X on 10/1 of 2025. Now this is a monthly, okay? And that monthly amount is 0.44612. How many shares? 147. Now this one here is more of a slow mover, right? But it has been pretty consistent on its distributions. So my $39.88 for my real price per share of where I'm at now becomes $39.43. So see, it is still coming down. Now it doesn't come down much, right? Because I'm only getting 44 cents for the month per share. But the current price of JEPQ being $57.28, and I have a real price per share of $39.43, looking pretty good, right? Now, on this one, I will have to note that I do have this call here, and it's a $56 call on JEPQ, meaning that I am agreeing to sell 100 shares of JEPQ at $56. Well, the current price shot up, right? It went up to $57.28. So this one here expires in November. And if that price is still above 56, I'm going to lose those 100 shares. Now, JEPQ wasn't moving much, so that's why I sold that call. But as soon as I did is when JEPQ took off. How many of y'all have done that? Stock is just stagnant forever, it feels like. You sell a call, and as soon as you hit the button to execute that sold call, the stock takes off, right? It's almost like they were waiting for you to hit that button, willing to sell your shares, and then it takes off. And that's what it feels like for me here, right? But that's okay. I just was not expecting to have to sell those shares. But it's up at a price now that I can't even roll this one very easily. So I will wait till once it gets in November, and then I will see if I can't roll this out. I might have to roll it out a whole year just to be able to roll it. But that's okay. Until that gets executed and those shares get taken away, I still own those shares and will earn a distribution for those shares as well. So the new stock sheet that I wanted to do one for was QDTE. And this one I've also had since about August of 2024. And you can see I have 155 shares and there's all my purchases, right? And there for a while, I was purchasing just every week. And I know some of you do that, right? But recently I have changed my strategy to only purchase when the current price is under my real price per share. Now, as you can see, I do not have any distributions entered yet. So I'm going to enter those distributions, and then we're going to see what that new adjusted price per share is. Because currently it's the same as the purchase price per share because we don't have anything here in the distributions to offset that. So let's enter that and let's just see what my real price per share is at that point. And FYI, I have not entered this, so we are both going to find out what it is at the same time. So entering in all of my distributions, that gives me my real price per share of $29.42. All right. Well, at least I am under the current price of QDTE. And if I were to sell those shares, I would earn a total of $938.50. And that's what I would actually clear. So even though they pay weekly, I've only gained back 30% of what I have invested. So just because an ETF pays out weekly does not necessarily mean that it's going to benefit you more. Because you think getting paid more times, you'll earn more. But that's not always the case, right? It also depends on what your buy price is, what your reinvested prices are, and of course, your distribution amount per share. So with all of that wrapped up there, That is how it's generating that real price per share. But for this one, I'm at $29.42. So I am under the current price, which is awesome. So anyway, I think I'm gonna wrap it up right there. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. I love to update my sheets. It just means I'm making a little bit more money, right? So if you don't have a way of calculating or tracking your positions of these high yield ETFs or any other stock or ETF, and you want a copy of this sheet, then definitely check the pinned comments, and in the description there will be a link to buy me a coffee to where you can get a copy of this sheet to where you can then enter in your own ticker symbol, your purchase entries, your distributions earned, and so forth, so that you can calculate what your real price per share is for your ETF that you own. And you would do that for each ETF that you do own. So if you enjoyed this, it'd be much appreciated if you hit that like button. And of course, subscribe if you're not already. And as always, I am not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. Please do your own due diligence before you get into any stock plays. And until next time, Legend out.